Hello, Fianga here. First of all, Merry Christmas to all of you. And today I'm going to show you the tutorial for the first painting in my calendar painting kit. But as fluent as I am in English conversations, I'm afraid I'm not that good at explaining things. But I will try my best, so have fun. Yeah, so right here we have my calendar. And today we're going to do the first painting in this calendar, which is this one. It's one of my favorite paintings I've made, and it's actually quite simple to make, which I think shouldn't take too long. The tutorial is quite simple, and we're just gonna go over use the techniques I put in the front, which is like wet on dry, color lifting, and wet on wet. Making sunlight is one of my favorite things to make, and contrary to what most people believe, it's actually not that hard to make when you understand the lighting colors, and it's just an assortment of colors from light to dark, which gives a light effect. Now here in the watercolor page I've made the sketch, which should help you for a guideline for this. Now I'm gonna put the tape around it, but it's totally optional. But I'm a very neat person, and I like to see clean lines as opposed to messy lines. And so yeah, I'm just gonna go over quickly at what you will need to make this. Aside from the painting and paper itself, you will need a mixing palette and colors. Primary colors are a must. Rather than tissues, I have this little handkerchief, towel, whatever it's called. I find this more useful than wasting so much tissues while painting. Glass of water. It's better if you change the water, but I don't usually change it. I always use just one glass for one painting. And here I have this large brush which will help me just to wet the paper. Okay, so I think that's all, and we shall start. Okay, for the first time, I always like to paint. I always paint from the sky first, from like background to foreground. So since the sky is the majority of the painting, I will do it first, and then because we need to leave it to dry before we can move on to the next layers. So the first things we're gonna do is just wet the paper. Not too wet. It's important to not put too much water. It usually just damages the viewer. So I don't know if you can see, but just quite wet enough, but don't make the water runny. Yeah. Next one, we're gonna use the cerulean blue and mix it with white to make a soft blue like that. Okay. Here we go. You know what? I'm gonna use a bigger brush, because this is the brush you get from the kit, which technically you can use for the whole painting. And since they have a pointy tip, you can make the detailed trees and stuff, but it would be easier to use a bigger brush for the sky and the blending. So that's what I'm going to use. This is the Betty Hayways brush number 9. There we go. Much easier. So now first with the light blue from on top, and then we're gonna stop and leave it mostly white color for the sunlight in the middle. And then we're gonna mix a little yellow. Mix a little yellow and white. Just a faint yellow color in the bottom. And then mostly leave the middle part white. Just maybe lightly mix it like this. The wet on wet technique is very good for mixing skies like this, and I always use the wet on wet technique for skies, which while the paper is wet you can just mix it again and again until you get the right consistency. Okay. Now it's a good thing to always put your towel next to your glass of water. That's what I do anyway. So I always put this next together, so I barely see where the towel is. Just after every dip, you want to make sure to drain the excess water from your brush and make it just damp if you want to mix this again. Because too much water will ruin it because we want it to be very smooth. It's important to just have enough water and not too much, because too much water, it usually messes with the sky. That's my opinion anyway. So before we continue to the foregrounds, we're just gonna leave the sky to dry, and while to save time, that's what I usually do anyway, because I don't actually have that much time to paint with school and other things to do, chores and stuff. I usually just do the sky, and while waiting for it to dry, I'm gonna make the base color for the lake, which we will need to mix the yellow with red to make orange. Just little. There we go. Right here. See, the wet on wet technique helps mix the colors together and not leave a clean line. It's gonna block this whole thing, but leave the sides so we can again put yellow just slightly here and mix it with the orange. We're gonna cover this with dark brown and gray, but but the base color is important. And we have indigo, and put a little indigo here. It's okay to let the blue mix with the yellow. It doesn't really matter much, since this is just a base color and we will cover most of it anyway. There. Dark brown, and lightly put it on top while it's still kind of wet and damp. There we go. Now all we can do is just wait for this to dry, especially the sky, before we can make the hill on the back. So I'm just gonna leave this to dry. Okay, next step, we're gonna start with this part, which is like a hill. Yeah, I guess it's a hill. I'm gonna use the smaller brush we get from the calendar kit. Now the trick with sunlight is the closest it is to the sunlight, the lighter the color is. So here we can see it's lighter, closer to the trees where the sunlight hits, and darker to the sides. That's what we're gonna do. Start with yellow, and then we're gonna mix it with the brown a bit. Make it light. Just cover this part. I don't usually cover it all because it's gonna be covered with the trees anyway. Just mix more color. And here make it lighter in the bottom too. I'm having a hard time trying to explain. Forgive me. See this. Lots of water is okay, it's fine. Now we're gonna start. So the lighter color is done. I'm just gonna mix it with the white. Yeah, it makes no difference. Okay, so next part is we're gonna mix the burnt umber with rose. Just a little pinkish touch. Makes a nice brown, kind of orangish. Now the top is definitely up to you. Any shape is fine. Make it uneven. Since it's like a hill, it's like no hill, it's just like straight. It's not straight line. There's nothing saying it have to be like this. Just do it. Whatever shape comes to mind. I usually just make it an uneven line like this. It's like a big bush. Mix it. It's nice to just get this done while the lighter color is still wet, so we can easily mix it. I'm gonna mix more orange. Light orange. There we go. And mix it again. It's basically just wet on wet. It's all just wet on wet. That part's done, and now the darkest part is on the sides. We're gonna mix, and we're gonna make a dark brown. Mix it with dark gray. I like to use paints gray more than black. I very rarely use black and use paints gray most of the time because I like the color more. It's not as dark. I always mix paints gray with other colors to make it darker and not black, because black is just too dark, and I like how paints gray color is. It's actually one of my favorite color, watercolor color. Bit big of a mouthful. Make another uneven lines. Yep. Mix it again. Dark color here. it uneven because light is uneven. Light is unpredictable. Just gonna add more gray. Paints gray have a bit of blue undertone. I like it. Kinda looks like indigo a bit. And make this part darker. Oh, I like seeing how the colors spread. Why? It's because it's wet on wet. I really like seeing it. Just dip here and let the colors spread on their own. I'm gonna mix more white and fix the bottom. Done. I always start with the sunlight from the lightest color to the darkest. Don't make mistake of actually making the trees first and then the sun. The sun comes first. Just need the yellow. Now we already have the sketch, the faint outline of the sketch, and here this part will be the sun. It's important to know that when the sun directly hits a tree or something, it disappears. Just makes like a big gap here. It's how the sun works. I can't exactly explain why. It's just when I look it up in the internet of all the sunlight pictures, it's always like that. The part where it directly hits is like, so in short, like this part is where the sun is, just not there. It disappears. So the first thing we do is just outline the trees, the tree leaves, the ones that surround the sun, with yellow, just like this. The leaves is definitely up to you, whatever shape you want it to be. And then we move on and making it a light orange around the yellow, and the tree next to it too, just a little bit of orange. Like making leaves. It's fun. Frustrating sometimes, but fun. Just gradually build up the colors, so yellow, light orange, and then we move on to darker colors. Now to darker orange, just add a little bit of red to make the orange darker, and then do it again. Just gradually build up the trees. Oh, too much red. Mix it while it's better to just mix it while it's wet, again with the wet on wet technique. Just let it mix together on its own, on their own, just like that. Now we can move on with the darker color. Just mix it with dark brown bit of the rose color. There's actually two trees here, so I'm just gonna make the trees Let's put the outline. This lines help show you how many trees there are. Easier to make the leaves. So again, we're just gonna gradually build up on the trees. See, you can already see here how it already looks like there's a sun coming out. It's just a trick of color playing. Just lighter and dark. Just start with the lighter color and then gradually move to the dark ones. This is gonna take a while. Can you guys hear my dog digging the floor? Definitely is digging the floor. Just make the leaves uneven. Just let it flow. Just let your brush flow and your hand loose, because trees are important. You don't want it to look too stiff and too artificial. Just don't have to be too neat. Done, and move on to a more darker color. Now for the last part, we're gonna just mix the dark brown with Payne's gray. Make it dark, nice and dark, but still a bit brownish. Just not pure Payne's gray, but close enough. It's good to do this. Don't take too long, because you still want this to be like somewhat damp or a bit wet, so the colors will be easier to mix. They blend naturally. I'm definitely gonna use a bigger brush to make just blocking this part. Make it quicker, and then just block this part with dark gray, dark brown, not dark gray, dark brown. Cover this part too. Again, uneven grounds. Don't make a straight line. Don't make it look stiff. Nice. And then we're gonna mix this later. Just gonna continue with this before continuing the ground. Oh, it's too dark. We're gonna leave this like this for a while waiting for it to dry before we start with the pure dark color. But we need it to be, for this part to be extra dry so it does not mix again, and we can make the more detailed leaves. Meanwhile, we're gonna make this part and the leg. Always multitask. The yellow, we're gonna make orange again. Light orange, mix this part together. Now with the dark Payne's gray, we're just gonna mix this together. Just go back and forth to mix this while it's still wet. And then put darker colors here. Again with the uneven grounds. Just leave this part dark because we're gonna mix it again with the trees, but still make it uneven and so it looks like leaves. Spread it again and mix it carefully with the lake, and go down and make stripes for the water. This is mostly wet on wet. Maybe we use dry on wet and wet on dry, but it's mostly just wet on wet. Okay, I think we're done like that. Continue with a smaller brush. We're gonna make the reflection on the lake. Doesn't show much because for this color I have to crop the picture, but shows enough, I guess. Just make stripes. The pattern is on the sketch, but it's again, it's up to you. I don't have anything to say about the shapes because basically just lines. Shapes on the water is very free flowing. There's no rules about how to paint this, so just make a reflection. It's basically just lines. No, I'm not good at explaining this. We're gonna make the stripes so it's still wet, and then again when it's completely dry. It's like several layers. Okay, the trees are done and the trees are dry. We're gonna continue the trees now with a lot of gray, pure gray, dark gray. You can use black if you want to make the details. Detailed tree is important, so you have to put the details because not all of it are directly exposed to the sun. Now with a damp brush, we're just gonna mix this a bit so it's not too stiff. Maybe add more brown to this. This tree. Just nice little detail. More, just this part is just making more details, adding more details to the tree. Careful not to cover this whole part. You want the hill to still be a bit visible. Have a little tree here. Just do the same thing with the bigger ones. And we're done with the tree. See, while waiting for it to dry and then layer it, we get this nice tree texture. It's like it's overlapping. If we do it in one layer, it won't show because everything will just mix together. Now while we do this, we can see that this tree, that one that hits the sunlight, is not on the same level with the ones on the front. Just gonna fix this, make it darker. Yep. We're practically almost done. I'm just gonna give more touch-ups to the light. As you can see, we don't need big techniques to make this. We just have to put, it's just a play of color, just like from the light color, and it gradually makes it dark, moves to the dark color. We can make this sunlight effect. Okay, now for the last part, we're just gonna finish adding the lines on the lake. Just more lines. I'm gonna add orange color to the lake. Now, using the white, just gonna put like little dots of white here on the lake. Just like it's kind of like an effect, light effect. This one's too white, so I'm just gonna have to erase the color, mix it a bit. Well, that's basically it. We're done. Time to peel this off. And nice and smooth. Ooh, nice. That doesn't damage the printing. This is bothering me, but yeah, we're done here. I hope this tutorial helps. This just shows that making this is actually not that hard. And thank you for watching till the end. I'll see you on the next tutorial.